Hi guys, this is Purely Math, and today we are going to be talking about the three different forms for linear equations, which are slope-intercept, standard form, and point-slope form. The first equation we're going to be using is slope-intercept form. The equation is used for linear equations, and what you need to know is the slope and the y-intercept of an equation to create it. The model for this equation is y equals mx plus b, with m respectively being the slope and b being the y-intercept, as you see right here. If you are confused with what I am talking about with linear equations, click my first video to learn more about linear equations in the top right. The next equation is standard form. This equation is also used for linear equations. It is used to find the x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. The model for this equation is ax plus by equals c. The a and b represent the coefficients to respectively the x and the y, as you see, and the c is the constant because it has no variable with it. The good thing about standard form is the multiple shortcuts you can get to find, for instance, the slope and the y-intercept. As you see in the blue in the top right, negative a over b equals the slope, and c over b equals the y-intercept. So let's show off some of them shortcuts. The way you find the slope is by using the rule negative a over b. So we can use this equation right here, 4x plus 2y equals 8. And with negative a over b, the slope would be, as you see, negative 4 over 2, which will come down to negative 2. Next, the way you find the x-intercept, as I had already said, in standard form, you can find x-intercept, y-intercept, and slope. You do that by setting the y equal to 0. So if we do 4x plus 2, parentheses 0, that's just going to get crossed out, so let's cross that out, equals 8, and then next you do 4x equals 8, and x comes out to equaling 2. So the x-intercept would be 2, comma 0. The way you can find the y-intercept is either by setting the x equal to 0 or doing c over b. Let's do c over b since that's a little bit easier. C over b is that c, which is 8, over the b, which is 2. So a over 2, and that comes to 4, being 0, comma 4. The last form is point-slope form, and it is usually used for word problems, and it can also be used for linear equations. The model for this equation is y minus y1 equals m parenthesis x minus x1. The y1 is the y value for the point from the equation, and the x1 is the x value for the point from the equation, and the m is the slope, as you see. It is kind of like the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Those are just points from the equation. Going between forms is relatively simple, with slope-intercept being in the middle being the main control, and the only exception is that standard can skip over slope-intercept to point slope. So it always goes, if you want to go from point slope to standard, you have to go through slope intercept and then get to standard. But if you want to go from standard to point slope, you can just skip over slope intercept and just go straight to point slope. And then slope intercept, it can go to point slope or it can go to standard. So our first transition is going to be transitioning to point slope. We're going to use standard form for the first one. So going from standard form to point slope form is relatively simple. We'll use the equation 2x minus 4 equals 8. And if you remember from the diagram, you can go straight from standard form to point slope form. So since we need to find what the slope is and a point with an x1 and a y1, which is just an x and y coordinate, all we have to do is just use a shortcut since we're using standard form. So negative a over b, which is the shortcut for slope, is going to equal negative a, which would be negative 2, over negative 4, which turns out to be 1/2. So we already have an m value. Next, we can just use the y-intercept as a point using c over b. So c over b would be 8 equals -4, a over -4. So that becomes -2. So our y-intercept would be 0, comma, -2. So since we have a point and a slope, we can write our equation now. It's going to be y minus our point right there would be -2, so it'd be parenthesis -2, which would turn into plus equals our slope, which is 1/2, parenthesis x minus 0. So it turns out to be y plus 2 equals 1/2 parenthesis x. Our next transitioning to point slope form is going from slope intercept form to point slope, which is very simple since what you need is a slope and a point. And we're going to use the equation y equals 6x minus 3. So since we already have a slope and a point, we can just automatically graph this. And the point would be, since this is the y-intercept b, it'd be 0, comma, -3. So we can already just plot this. It'd be y minus -3 equals 6, parenthesis, x minus 0, which turns out to be y plus 3 equals 6, parenthesis, x. Now we're on to transitioning to standard form. What you need to get from standard form is isolate the x and y to one side of the equation to get the constants, the numbers without a variable, to the other side of the equation. So we're going to be using slope-intercept form to standard form first. So going from slope-intercept form to standard form is super easy. We'll use the equation y equals 2x minus 3. Y equals 2x minus 3. All we have to do is just subtract the x to the other side of the equation, and it turns out to be y minus 2x equals -3. Let's just change that to ax plus by, so -2x plus y equals -3. Boom. Now we're on to point slope to standard form. Going from point slope to standard form is a little more complicated. We're going to be using the equation y minus 3 equals 2x minus 1. So that's going to be y minus 3 equals 2, parenthesis, x minus 1. So first we're going to distribute the 2 to the parentheses and make it become y minus 3 equals 2x minus 2. And now we're going to add the 3 over to make it become slope-intercept form, because we have to make it a slope-intercept form before we can go to standard. So it'll become y equals 2x plus 1. And now since we're at slope-intercept, it's super easy. All we do is just subtract the 2x over and we're done. So it'll turn out to be -2x plus y equals 1. Lastly, we're on transitioning to slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form, what you need from it is the slope and the y-intercept on one side of the equation, and then just the y value on the other side, which is just the y variable. So we're going to use point slope form transitioning to slope-intercept form. So it's pretty simple. We're going to use the equation y plus 4 equals 2, parenthesis, x plus 1. So y plus 4 equals 2, parenthesis, x plus 1. First, we're just going to simplify the equation by getting rid of the parentheses. So it's going to become y plus 4 equals 2x plus 2. And then all we have to do from there is just subtract the 4 over, and the y is isolated by itself. So it becomes y equals 2x minus 2. Now we're on to our last transitioning to slope-intercept form from standard form. Going from standard form to slope-intercept form is a little complicated. Let's use the equation 4x plus 3y equals 7. 4x plus 3y equals 7. So first we're going to subtract the 4x over to get the y isolated so far. So 3y equals 4x plus 7. And then we just want the y to be by itself, so we're going to divide by 3. So y equals 4x plus 7 over 3. And we can simplify that by making it 2. Y equals 4 divided by 3, x plus 7 over 3. Okay, since we finished all the transitions, here's some extra practice if you need to. Pause the video real quick and refer to the diagram if you get confused. Here are the answers to the problems. You can check over your work, and you can pause this if you need longer.